Welcome to the Virginia Workers' Compensation Commission's presentation on an overview of the EDI reporting requirements. On the agenda for today, we will cover the element requirements table, the event table, edit matrix, Freud and Schrey sequencing table, some additional resources, and then we will conclude. First up, the element requirements table. The element requirements table lists every data element on the Freud and Schrey and identifies if a data element is required on a certain MTC transaction with a specific requirement code on the table. If a data element is conditionally required, noted with code MC, the Freud and Schrey Conditions tab further clarifies under what conditions that data element is required. The table contains the IIBC and Virginia changelogs, Freud and Schrey element requirement tables, Freud and Schrey O2 exceptions, Freud and Schrey conditional requirements, the legacy claim definition, event benefit segment requirements, and the event benefit conditional requirements. First, we will go over the Freud element requirement table. The table includes the data element names, acceptable MTCs, and the requirement codes for each data element and each acceptable MTC. An example would be the jurisdiction claim number for a Freud OO. It is MC for mandatory conditional. This means the data element is mandatory based on a specific condition. So we will use the Freud conditional requirements table. If you note the highlighted section, the jurisdiction claim number is mandatory if a previous Freud report was accepted and a JCN assigned, or is mandatory on an 00 or 04 where the date of injury is before October 1st, 2008. The Schrey element requirements table is set up the same way as the Freud. And as with the Freud requirements, if a Schrey data element is mandatory conditional, you will use the Schrey conditional requirements to see if it is mandatory based on the condition. Next, we will talk about the Freud O2 exceptions. On the Freud element requirement table, if the reportable change code for an add, update, remove, or delete reflects YG or JG, it means there is an exception. Go to the Freud O2 exceptions tab to notate what the exception is. An example would be removing the employee date of birth on the Freud O2. You will want to refer to the Freud conditions, Schrey conditions, and the edit matrix population restrictions for this data element to see when it is required. If it is required, it cannot be removed on the O2. Schrey O2 exceptions is set up the same way. For more information surrounding the O2s and the reportable change codes, see Training Aid number 21 for O2 change transaction. Legacy claim definition provides the definition of a legacy claim in Virginia. A legacy claim is a claim where a Freud UR exists and a TA status, or the latest Freud and a TA status is not an O2 or AQ where the date the claim administrator had knowledge of the injury is prior to January 16, 2025, or an incoming Freud UR or incoming claim where the date the claim administrator had knowledge of the injury is prior to January 16, 2025. The event benefit segment. It is specific to the benefit segment. For the benefit type you are reporting, it will tell you what the data requirements will be for each piece of the benefit segment. And again, if a field is mandatory conditional, you will use the conditional requirements. The event table. The event table defines the circumstances under which the claim information must be sent and sets the timeframes for sending the information. The table contains the IIBC and Virginia changelogs, Freud and Schrey event table, and the Schrey periodic event table. The Freud event table will list the acceptable Freud MTCs. Column H, which is highlighted in blue, is the criteria that the transaction must meet in order to file. Columns J through L, which is highlighted in purple, tells you when that report is due. For example, the Freud OO. There are multiple criteria to look at, but let's talk about the first one. It is a new claim where lost time is greater than 7 days, not denied, and is a major injury. The report is due using columns J and K. It tells us it must be submitted within 10 calendar days. And using column L, it tells us from the date the claim administrator is notified of the injury. The Schrey event table works the same way. you have the list of acceptable MTCs. Column I, which is highlighted in blue, tells the criteria that the transaction must meet in order to file, and columns K through M, which is highlighted in purple, tells you when the report is due. For example, the SHRAE AB, the criteria is jurisdiction defined for when the concurrent benefit of temporary partial or permanent partial is being added while the other benefit type is already being paid and reported. The report is due 10 calendar days from the benefit payment issue date of the benefit that triggered the filing of the AB. The last is the periodic table. Virginia only accepts the SHRAE QT. The criteria is jurisdiction defined, and the trigger value is 3 months from the date of injury and every 3 months thereafter when an existing SHRAE is on file and there is indemnity, medical, or award payments since the last SHRAE report was filed, and the report is due 45 calendar days from the trigger value. This means the QT is due 45 days after the end of each quarter when payments are ongoing. The edit matrix. The edit matrix conveys the specific edit that will be applied to each data element and provides the standard error messages associated with these edits, defines the valid value codes Virginia accepts, the matched data that will be used to match transactions, and assists in understanding and correcting errors. The table contains the IIBC and Virginia change logs, DN error message table, valid value table, and the details of the valid value table, matched data, legacy claim definition, population restrictions, and sequencing. First, we have the DN error message table. On the left-hand side, highlighted in blue, is the data elements. Beginning with column H across the top, highlighted in purple, is the error messages. Column E, highlighted in red, tells you if an edit is applied to the data element in Virginia. Column F, highlighted in green, tells you if there is a possible population restriction for the data element, and if there is a population restriction, you'll want to go over to the Population Restrictions tab. This is the table you will use if there is a population restriction. You would locate the data element and error message, and you can use the filters to assist in locating them. If there is not an error message present for the data element, there is no population restriction. If there is, then there is a restriction. For example, rejection for jurisdiction claim number not statutory valid. The population restriction is for transactions with a date of injury prior to October 1st, 2008, it must be 7 or 13 digits with no dashes or spaces. For transactions with the date of injury after October 1st, 2008, it must be 13 characters beginning with VA, again with no dashes or spaces. Next is the valid value table. This lists all the data elements with their acceptable values. If it is grayed out, that means Virginia does not accept it. And column D, which is highlighted in green, would tell you if the Commission captures the data. The Valid Value Table tab is followed by the Valid Value Table Details, page 1 and 2. These tabs provide the data elements, the code, and what the code stands for. Again, if it is grayed out, that means Virginia does not accept it. You can see Training Aid number 3, Quick Code Sheet, for a user-friendly version that only shows the codes Virginia accepts. Moving on to the matched data table, it advises which fields are considered matched data and only one can be changed at a time. With the exception of the instances that you are changing the employee's first and last name or the employer FIN, insurer FIN, and claim administrator FIN. Legacy claim definition provides the definition of a legacy claim in Virginia. This is the same definition provided in the element requirement table. Last, we have the sequencing table. It will assist when you are getting the sequencing errors and could assist with sequencing itself. An example, highlighted at the bottom in purple, SHRAE CB rejects for event 2B, 2C, or 2D not previously accepted. Go to that event, highlighted in blue, the SHRAE EP, IP, or AP must be accepted prior to the submission of the SHRAE CB. You can also note the minimum sequencing requirements to the right for the SHRAE CB. That notates the requirements in a clearer manner. The last table we have to discuss is the sequencing table. The sequencing table indicates if the MTC should be considered as the last accepted MTC for sequencing, provides what MTCs may follow, and indicates if a sequencing exception edit is applied. The table contains the changelog, Freud and Schray sequencing master, and sequencing exception edits. Freud sequencing master. Column A, highlighted in red, tells you if the MTC should be considered as the last accepted MTC for sequencing. Columns D through K and S through W, highlighted in blue, will provide you a reference number for any exceptions. Columns L through R and starting at X, highlighted in green, provides acceptable Freud and Schray MTCs. If it is not shaded or shaded yellow, it is acceptable. Blue and orange shaded MTCs are not acceptable to follow the prior accepted MTC. Schray sequencing master works the same way as the Freud master does. The exceptions noted on the Freud and Schray sequencing master tables can be found here on the Sequencing Exception Edits tab. Simply scroll until you find the reference number located in column B, or you can use the filters option to locate it faster. Columns D and E provides the processing note exception and the element error text. Where can you find these documents? They can be located on the EDI Services page of the Commission's website. On the left-hand side, go to Electronic Data Interchange under VWC Departments, and the documents will be on the right-hand side under EDI Documents. Before we conclude, let's discuss some additional resources. First, we have our training aids. We currently have 21 training aids available covering various topics. The EDI department continues to assess and develop training aids as needed to be used by our claim administrators to assist with the Virginia EDI reporting. One training aid to make note of is training aid number 14, Interpreting EDI Reporting Requirements. This training aid covers some of the same information we went over here in this presentation for the Element Requirements Table, Event Table, and Edit Matrix, and will be a great quick reference material to use when understanding these tables. We also have the EDI FAQs, and as you have seen by locating this training, we have additional EDI training presentations. All three of these additional resources can also be located on the EDI Services page of the Commission's website on the right-hand side under EDI Documents, EDI Resources, and EDI 3.1 Training Aids. This concludes the training part of our session, but before we end the presentation, we have a couple more things. Additional training. Is there a need? If so, what topics should we cover? Also, do you have any recommendations for new training aids or recordings you would like to see available? All requests for training can be submitted to EDI Support with the subject line EDI Training. Here is the EDI Support Team's contact information, email, and phone number. All written responses to EDI-related correspondences should be faxed or mailed. They can also be uploaded through web file directly into the claim. Please note that written responses cannot be accepted via email. This concludes the presentation. We would like to take a moment to thank you for reviewing this presentation and hope that it was beneficial and provide you the necessary information to ensure success in submitting EDI in Virginia.